Hi, my name is Brandon Branch. This is my special education law presentation. So I kind of wanted to talk about uh, prior to the 1970s what special education looked like. It did not look good for special education. Students with disabilities were kind of pushed to the side a lot of the times. They were not guaranteed spots in schools. Often they were regulated to state institutions where they received little to no educational instruction at all. And those that did enroll in public schools and were granted access to public schools were commonly separated from their peers. They're separated from the student body, usually in separate classes or separate buildings entirely attending classes. So there was no big laws or anything that protected the rights of those students specifically. And it wasn't really until the 1970s where things kind of started to kick off, especially like mid 1970s with things like FERPA, and the big one in 1975 with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This act requires all public schools to provide services to students with disabilities to meet their unique needs. So this was the big, pretty much starting point for special education and kind of the foundation of what is built upon as we see today. There were more cases, uh, in the 80s that I will talk about here in a little bit. And, you know, as you see special education today, it is in every public school setting that you can see with so many different programs to accommodate students' affected needs, SSN, TAP. So it is a night and day difference between what it looked like in the 1970s or before the 1970s and what it is today. Students' rights are protected. There's so many different things to get parents involved. Parent involvement is crucial in IEP processes, and things like FERPA really work to protect the privacy and the rights of students and parents and confidential information. So things are much better now in special education uh, than they were before. Um, so, kind of the two cases I wanted to talk about. One of them is not particularly a special education case, but it is very much tied into special education law and kind of the fight for special education rights. And that is the Brown versus Board of Education in 1954. So the U.S. Supreme Court determined that separate education for African American students or children was not an equal education, concluding that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place, that separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. This decision provided parents of children with disability rights activists, and constitutional foundation to press forward equal educational opportunities for all children. So that was a big, much like the Individuals with Disability Education Act, it was a big stepping stone. It was a big foundation builder for special education and the fight for equal rights for students with disabilities. And the second case I wanted to talk about happened in 1988, which is the Honig versus Doe case. This one I want to talk about because this was particularly the first case to kind of uphold the educational rights of emotionally disabled students. And it's a vital for students who display behavioral issues as a result of their disability. And it pretty much states that you can only suspend for 10 days maximum, and you cannot just expel a student because they exhibit behaviors, especially if those behaviors pertain to their disability. So it really protects not just the students' rights, but the placement, their placement, and it just upholds the students' rights to public school education. And like I said, I wanted to highlight that one because that was one of the very first cases, if not the first case, to really uphold the educational rights of students with disabilities, emotionally disabled students. And then I kind of wanted to end on giving some resources that kind of keep you up to date with special education law, things that are happening in special education. One of those is the National Association of Special Education Teachers. This site is really good about kind of explaining all the different acts, all the things all the different laws. If there's any changes, they update it. This is really good for not just teachers, but for parents and students alike who want to really understand what things like IEP development or just things such as all the different acts, FERPA, IDEA, ADA, stuff like that. So that was a really good resource that I found. Another one is the Council for Exceptional Children. They're really good about updating people about the different conferences and stuff that are happening around. And again, just keeping up to date with the standards, the acts, anything changes in law, they update. Just a bunch of different links and sources to special education related programs. So that resource is really well. And for Colorado specifically, where I'm going to teach, just the CDE website. Again, if you need anything as far as like licensing, there is special education tab specifically for special education resources, and again, all the acts, all the different laws, any updates they make, early learning, quality school, or post-secondary readiness. They have all that on that website, so it's a very, very good resource. And like I said, they do have a special education tab specifically for special education related information that you may be looking for. I definitely went a little bit over, sorry about that, but thank you very much for watching.